On March 27, 1977, the world's deadliest aviation disaster unfolded at Los Rodeos Airport in Tenerife, Spain. Two Boeing 747 jumbo jets, KLM Flight 4805 and Pan Am Flight 1736, collided on the runway, resulting in the loss of 583 lives. The tragedy began with a terrorist bomb explosion at Gran Canaria Airport, the original destination for both flights. This forced the diversion of numerous aircraft to Tenerife, a smaller airport unequipped to handle such traffic. Los Rodeos had a single runway and a parallel taxiway, meaning planes often had to taxi directly on the runway itself. The situation was further complicated by dense fog, reducing visibility to nearly zero. Both flights were grounded at Tenerife, waiting for Gran Canaria to reopen. When the airport resumed operations, the two jets prepared for departure. However, the limited facilities and the fog created a chaotic environment. Air traffic controllers struggled without ground radar, relying solely on verbal communication with the crews. KLM Flight 4805, captained by an experienced but impatient pilot, refueled and taxied onto the runway, preparing for takeoff. At the same time, Pan Am Flight 1736 was taxiing down the same runway, trying to locate its exit point to clear the path. However, miscommunications arose. The Pan Am crew, unfamiliar with the airport layout, missed their turn, leaving them still on the runway. Meanwhile, KLM's captain, misunderstanding ATC instructions, began his takeoff roll, believing he was cleared. The fog concealed the Pan Am jet ahead, and as the KLM aircraft accelerated, the Pan Am crew saw the approaching lights. They frantically tried to turn off the runway, but it was too late. The KLM jet, realizing the danger, attempted to lift off prematurely, but its tail struck the ground. The aircraft's undercarriage and engines slammed into the Pan Am jet, shearing it apart. The collision caused a massive explosion. Everyone on the KLM flight, 248 people, died instantly. On the Pan Am plane, 61 survivors managed to escape through the burning wreckage, but 335 lives were lost. The investigation revealed that pilot error, poor visibility, and communication breakdowns were the main causes. Misunderstandings between the KLM captain and air traffic control proved fatal. The disaster highlighted the need for standardized aviation communication and better crew coordination. In response, aviation authorities implemented major safety reforms, including clearer phraseology, crew resource management training, and improved airport technology like ground radar. The Tenerife airport disaster remains a chilling reminder of how a chain of small errors can lead to catastrophic consequences, reshaping aviation safety forever. On November 12, 1996, a quiet evening over northern India, two massive aircraft flew towards their destinations, one departing from New Delhi, the other arriving. In a matter of seconds, 349 people would lose their lives in the deadliest mid-air collision in history. Saudi Arabian Airlines, Flight 763, a Boeing 747, had 312 passengers and crew on board, bound for Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. Kazakhstan Airlines, Flight 1907, carried 37 people, preparing for landing in New Delhi. Both aircraft had received clear altitude instructions from air traffic control. One was climbing, the other descending. Everything should have been fine. But a miscommunication, a simple mistake, set them on a collision course. As the Saudi flight leveled off at 14,000 feet, the Kazakhstan crew, battling poor visibility from heavy smog, misheard their instructions. Instead of holding at 14,000 feet, they descended lower, directly into the path of the Saudi jet. At 6:40 p.m., disaster struck. The Kazakhstan plane's tail slammed into the left wing of the Saudi 747, shearing it apart. In an instant, both aircraft were crippled. The Saudi jet broke apart in mid-air, spiraling helplessly toward the ground. The Kazakhstan plane, heavily damaged, entered a violent dive. Within seconds, both aircraft slammed into the fields of Charkhi Dadri, India. There were no survivors. Rescue teams arrived to find the wreckage scattered across miles. A horrific scene. Investigators soon uncovered the critical mistakes that led to the disaster. 1. The Kazakhstan pilots misheard their altitude clearance, causing them to descend too low. 2. Neither aircraft was equipped with TKS, Traffic Collision Avoidance System, a technology that could have warned both pilots in time. 3. The Kazakhstan crew's limited English proficiency caused a fatal misunderstanding with New Delhi's air traffic control. This tragedy forced major changes in global aviation safety. TCAS became mandatory on all commercial aircraft. Strict English proficiency standards were introduced for pilots and controllers. Air corridors were redesigned to ensure better separation. The Charkhi Dadri mid-air collision remains a dark chapter in aviation history, but the lessons learned from it have helped prevent future disasters. 349 lives were lost, but their tragedy changed aviation forever. On August 12, 1985, Japan Airlines Flight 123, a Boeing 747 SR, prepared for what should have been a routine domestic flight. Departing Tokyo's Haneda Airport at 6:12 p.m., the aircraft carried 524 people, 509 passengers and 15 crew, on a short journey to Osaka's Itami Airport. But within just 12 minutes of takeoff, disaster struck. At 6:24 p.m., over Sagami Bay, an explosive decompression rocked the aircraft. A crucial section of the rear pressure bulkhead had failed, causing the vertical stabilizer to break away completely. In an instant, the plane lost its ability to maintain controlled flight. With the stabilizer gone, the hydraulic systems failed, rendering the aircraft nearly uncontrollable. The crew, led by Captain Masami Takahama, fought desperately to keep the aircraft steady, but the plane began oscillating in a slow, uncontrollable up-and-down motion. For the next 32 agonizing minutes, Flight 123 remained airborne, drifting unpredictably across Japan. Pilots attempted to maneuver the aircraft back to Haneda, but with no hydraulic controls, they were at the mercy of aerodynamics. The aircraft veered off course, looping over Mount Fuji and heading toward the rugged mountains of Gunma Prefecture. In the cabin, chaos and fear spread. Oxygen masks had deployed, but with a breached fuselage, they could do little to sustain passengers for long. Many on board scribbled farewell notes to loved ones, aware of the inevitable. At 6:56 p.m., the Boeing 747 struck the mountainside near Mount Takamagahara. The impact shattered the aircraft, engulfing the wreckage in flames. Of the 524 people on board, 520 perished. Only 4 survived, miraculously found among the twisted metal and debris. Despite the crash occurring at sunset, rescue teams were delayed. Military helicopters spotted survivors shortly after the crash, but confusion and bureaucracy led officials to halt operations until morning, a decision that may have cost lives. By the time rescuers arrived, only 4 passengers remained alive, suffering from severe injuries and exposure to the elements. The subsequent investigation revealed a chilling truth. 7 years earlier, in 1978, improper repairs had been performed on the aircraft's rear pressure bulkhead following a tail strike incident. Boeing technicians had patched the damage incorrectly, using a single-row rivet repair instead of the required double-row configuration. Over time, with each pressurization cycle, stress fractures formed, until August 12, 1985, when the bulkhead finally gave way, leading to catastrophic decompression and the loss of control. The disaster remains the deadliest single aircraft accident in aviation history,